Here's your wrestling news for April 17th, 2021, and if you like what you're watching, smash that like button and give us 1,000 likes or more. And your headlines for today include Roman Reigns' next challenger revealed, WWE lied to superstars about releases. What did they say? Why did fans leave WrestleMania early? Top WWE executive deliberately held down popular superstar. Recent WWE releasee teases move to another company. Huge plans for AEW in the works. When will WWE's next show with fans be? And more. We are starting today with SmackDown, as last night's show didn't feature Edge or Daniel Bryan, but as usual, was opened by Universal Champion Roman Reigns. Bragging about his WrestleMania victory, Reigns said there was nobody left to challenge him, which caused Cesaro to come out, and just as he was able to speak, Reigns, Paul Heyman, and Jey Uso left the ring without listening to what he had to say. It was interesting, and while a match between Cesaro and Roman Reigns was first booked for SmackDown in a non-title match, it was changed, and to no one's surprise, main event Jey Uso replaced Roman Reigns on this week's show. An entertaining match, it was cut short by Seth Rollins, who caused the DQ, claiming that his rivalry with the Swiss Cyborg isn't over. It's an interesting story to tell, as on one hand, you have a Universal Champion who refuses to acknowledge Cesaro as a challenge, and on the other, an obsessive Seth Rollins looking to get retribution for his Mania loss. We don't expect a triple threat between them, but we predict that Cesaro will face and defeat Rollins on SmackDown in the coming weeks before challenging Roman Reigns at WrestleMania Backlash. What do you think of the treatment of Cesaro in recent weeks? Let us know in the comments. Earlier this week, WWE released a total 10 superstars from the roster, with names like Samoa Joe, Mickie James, and the Iconics all being released via phone calls from John Laurinaitis. Though these releases seemed out of nowhere, it's now being reported that they were planned in advance, and the WWE was even willing to lie to those being cut. Fightful Select reports that it was a couple of months ago that rumors began circulating in WWE that there would be cuts, and when many people who were cut this past Thursday asked at the time about the rumors, they were told they'd be fine. That obviously wasn't true, and we're questioning why WWE would lie to their own roster, telling people they planned to cut that they were safe. WWE now has a bit more money saved after releasing these 10 superstars, but at a time when the company is recording record profits, there's a lot of people who are questioning WWE's reasoning of so-called budget cuts. Even with these releases, the show must go on as the card is coming together for next week's Raw. During SmackDown, it was announced that Charlotte Flair will face Asuka this Monday after the Queen interrupted the Empress's WrestleMania rematch against the new Raw Women's Champion, Rhea Ripley. Braun Strowman and Randy Orton will collide in singles action for the first time ever, and after both men lost to Drew McIntyre in last week's WWE title #1 Contenders match, we'll have to see who bounces back with a win. Both Strowman and Orton picked up victories during WrestleMania, with Orton winning Night 2's opener and Strowman destroying Shane McMahon on Night 1. Night 1 of WrestleMania was headlined by Bianca Belair defeating Sasha Banks to become the new SmackDown Women's Champion in a historic victory. Their Mania Clash received positive reviews from critics, but new reports indicate that not everyone at Raymond James Stadium were looking forward to their bout. As per the Wrestling Observer newsletter, lots of people left the stadium before and during the main event of WrestleMania 37 Night 1. Several noted that a lot of people left on Night 1 prior to the Banks vs. Belair main event. I wasn't there, and reports varied, but reports as the match started indicated the number was high, and it was very visible right on camera in the early part of the match. No reason was given, but it's possible that the lack of hype heading into the match may have affected the fans' interest. Despite the build-up to the WWE SmackDown Women's Championship contest receiving criticism, the match itself ended up being one of the best matches at WrestleMania. The Night 2 main event between Universal Champion Roman Reigns, Edge, and Daniel Bryan, the fans in attendance seemed relatively more interested in that bout compared to Banks Belair, and the Universal title triple threat ended up being a critically acclaimed affair as Reigns retained his championship at the end of Night 2. Billie Kay had her own WrestleMania moment appearing during Night 1, which has made her release earlier this week all the more surprising. Kay was loved by both fans and her peers, many of whom posted their own comments about the Australian, but one person not a fan of hers is Kevin Dunn. That's according to sources who spoke to Fightful Select, who claimed that Dunn didn't get the former women's tag champion and held her down, saying he, quote, saw a ceiling for her in the company. This may explain why she didn't move up the card despite gaining fans, as she never even got a chance at a singles women's title throughout her career. Whilst Billie Kay made a great impression on many people, her character didn't click with one very important individual, and we're wondering if she'd still be in WWE now if Dunn wasn't the decision maker. Speaking of releases, Andrade was let go from the company last month, a release he'd previously requested, and the former NXT champion was let go without a 90-day non-compete clause. Since leaving, there's been plenty of speculation as to why he wanted out of the company, and during an interview with Sportskeeda, Sin Cara gave his own explanation. Talent-wise, everybody's very talented, I can understand, but it's just sad to be able to see that the Mexicans, us, don't get an opportunity to showcase. Not one Mexican on the card, and that's just unfortunate because if you look at the talent that they have great wrestlers. They can do a lot of positive things with them, and they don't do it, and I don't think they really care, to be honest. That was the main thing why I left. That's why Andrade left also. It wasn't because he wanted to leave or because we were just trying to become news out there. It's not about that, but trying to fight for your ideals and what you want to accomplish in your life. And for me, it's not about the money. And for Andrade, it's not about the money. Andrade hasn't kept quiet since his release, openly criticizing WWE's lack of Mexican talent at WrestleMania, and with no 90-day non-compete clause, Andrade has a lot of options ahead of him. More releases now as Chelsea Green was cut from WWE this past Thursday and is already teasing where fans can find her next. On Twitter, Green responded to a Lucha Underground clip featuring her and AEW's Penta, teasing that she'll see him sooner than thought. We will have to see which promotion Chelsea Green will call her home next, but AEW would be a good place for her as they are starting to focus on their women's division. Since leaving WWE in 2016, Ryback Reeves has had just a handful of matches, but in that time has insisted his wrestling career is far from over. Active on Twitter, the former WWE star recently asked fans where they'd like to see him next, but is probably regretting putting this poll up. With options including AEW, Impact, and NXT, the majority of fans polled said they'd prefer to see the big guy retire. There's still time for the results to change, but if it doesn't, then this year may be the last we see of the big guy as an active wrestler. Over to Impact, and Mauro Ranallo will commentate the title for title match at April 25th's Rebellion event, and that's not all planned for him. It's being reported that Ranallo will commentate the match, do voiceover for 2 packages to build the match, and host a documentary, This is Rebellion, that'll air next week. Ranallo doesn't come cheap, but Impact are bringing him in for this huge match between Rich Swann and Kenny Omega, and we imagine there'll be a Mamma Mia or two during the match. Back to WWE, and on SmackDown, Roman Reigns made it clear that he feels there's no one left to challenge him, but WWE executives don't agree. That's according to Dave Meltzer, who wrote that the Tribal Chief is being protected with his booking ahead of 3 huge matches WWE plan on happening. The 3 biggest money matches they believe they have are all with Reigns, with Dwayne Johnson, John Cena, and Brock Lesnar. You don't have to have Reigns always win, and those matches would still draw if he lost the Universal Championship now and won it back later. Though Reigns has faced and beaten both Lesnar and Cena before, he's still not locked horns with his cousin, though it's a match both he and The Rock have teased. Whether that match happens or not remains to be seen, but it's clear that the WWE is planning on it taking place, judging by the dominant booking for the Universal Champion. During WrestleMania weekend, Davey Boy Smith Jr. appeared to posthumously induct his father into the Hall of Fame, following on from months of rumors that he's returning to WWE. That return hasn't happened yet, but in an update, Dave Meltzer notes that Smith and WWE are in, quote, serious discussions, so fans should expect that signing in the not-so-distant future. More from AEW, and since 2019, the company has made tons of content, which will soon be rewatchable to fans. In the Observer newsletter, Meltzer reported that AEW plans to set up their own streaming service, or possibly follow WWE's example and have a major streaming company spend a lot of money for their content instead. With 2 years of content, AEW has hundreds of hours to their name already, and would you be interested in an AEW network, and how much would you be willing to pay for a monthly subscription? Let us know in the comments. Movie news now, as John Cena will play Vin Diesel's brother in Fast and Furious 9, the latest movie in Cena's Hollywood career. The franchise took a huge blow in 2013 when Paul Walker died in a car crash, but Diesel is confident that Cena is the right man to be a part of the popular film series. Speaking to Extra about the first time meeting Cena, Diesel said it felt like Walker himself had sent the 16-time world champion to be a part of the series. The new film will release in cinemas this June, and with Cena as the villain, wrestling fans are getting that long-awaited Cena heel turn, albeit on the big screen. And we're ending today by looking ahead to SummerSlam, as the biggest party of the summer will have a crowd in attendance. That's according to Sports Illustrated, who report that following the positive reception to WrestleMania, WWE are planning to host SummerSlam with a live crowd. WWE is hopeful that they'll be able to tour again with full-capacity crowds by the summer, and whether that happens or not with the ongoing global situation, fans can at least expect some semblance of normalcy for SummerSlam 2021. Well guys, that's our news for today. Please share your comments below. Also hit the like button, subscribe to our channel, and hit the bell icon to receive all notifications. And as always, thanks for watching.